with longtime sports writer Marcus Fitzsimmons and former Alcoa basketball standout Dwayne Easter. Tennessee rolls into the Elite Eight, and we're going to the whistle blows. And now let's set today's lineup card. Marcus Fitzsimmons will fill us in on the latest high school sports news, and I'll follow up with the top national sports stories. Marcus Fitzsimmons will also be on board to update us on what's happening in local high school sports, and we'll cover the teams and individuals who are making a mark. And I'll jump in and talk some NCAA tournament basketball and set the stage for the Vols game with Houston. We're happy you're with us, and so let's break the huddle and dive right in. Guys, they're dancing in the streets here in Knoxville. Man, I'm telling you right now, the basketball team went up to Indianapolis, my home territory last night, and got a big win against Kentucky. Kentucky was going for 3 in a row, but that did not happen. And then the Lady Vols softball team, Marcus, went out to, I think, Oklahoma.
Went to Oklahoma, took the opener.
Yes, and took the opener yesterday. I think Oklahoma was, ranked number 2 in the country. And then last night, the baseball Vols beat South Carolina. So, man,
Tennessee's doing good.
Life is good.
It was a good Friday for
good.
Tennessee. I know we're actually a couple weeks away from Good Friday, but it was a good Friday if you're a Vol fan.
Yeah, yeah. Well, we're here at the Bluetick Tavern, and, of course, Donnie Moore is still out, Marcus. He had a surgery, and unfortunately he lost his mother.
Yeah,
and so
Donnie had a really tough week.
Yeah, he really did,
Yeah.
and so our thoughts are with him and his family in this trying time. But we'll look forward to getting him back here, hopefully on the mend and soon, huh?
Well, I think he can rock a sling when he can get back here. I mean, I'm kind of curious what he's going to come back, if it's going to be generic or if he's going to have something pimped out with some bling on it.
Yeah. Well, we miss him. We miss him, and hopefully he'll be back soon. I've got a little litter rip this morning. I'm talking about gambling.
Gambling?
I'm gambling. I'm telling you right now.
Well, I guess we're going to roll the dice and we're going to stay on the air for this one.
It evidently is a little bit more of a problem than I thought it was.
Really?
You know, yeah. The NCAA came out with a commercial informing the public that gambling has reared its ugly head toward players involved in college sports. According to the NCAA, gambling who lose bets are harassing and threatening players. First of all, there's no place for this type of behavior in college sports, and gamblers should be punished for their actions. And on the other hand, gambling has never been a positive thing when it comes to sports. Gambling in sports has been a dark cloud on programs going all the way back to the Black Sox scandal of 1919 in baseball. Legalizing gambling in sports brings in millions in revenue to states, but now it seems players are starting to pay the price. And since gamblers are now making their threats upon athletes, what is around the corner? Players throwing games, paying college players, the transfer portal, gambling on games. Sounds to me like college sports are walking a tightrope, just a step away from making a disastrous fall. Marcus Fitzsimmons, I hate to hear this, but you know, I think it's a matter of time before this becomes even a bigger issue. You know, gambling is more and more. Well, first of all, I never dreamed. I never dreamed in my wildest thoughts that gambling would ever be a part of college athletics. But here it is. And you know, there were times in college. I think Kentucky back in the late '40s was involved in a scandal there in New York where some of the players were fixing games. I hate to see it, but you know, when you start pressuring, you know, gamblers start pressuring 18, 19, 20, and 21-year-old kids and throwing money out there, I don't know that it's something to look forward to. It's got to be concerning.
You know, I think the concern always was, you know, you didn't want the gambling influence because you didn't want them fixing outcomes and you didn't want athletes being threatened by bookies and this sort of thing. I don't think anybody ever got in their mind that we were going to be at the point where the fans were going to be so invested in betting that they would be responding and harassing athletes. I don't think anybody ever imagined that, but here we are.
Yeah.
And are we really surprised given everything else?
No.
I mean,
I don't know. At times I feel like I'm living in Pottersville. So nothing surprises me at any level anymore.
But I think it's going to be like several other things that we're seeing with the NCAA. It's going to be a first world problem. You're going to see this problem with the athletes who are getting big NIL money in football, men's basketball, women's basketball. You're not going to see them harassing somebody on the rowing team.
No.
When that's not to put down rowing or say they're not good athletes. I'm saying that the NIL money is also going to be the same signature you're going to see as to your likelihood of getting harassed.
Yeah. Dwayne, with speaking of NIL money and the transfer portal and everything that's going on right now, with that being said, and these players, jump in schools. They jump in schools for money.
Yeah.
These rosters are being depleted by 3 or 4 players a lot of times.
Arkansas,
and they go right to these other somewhere else where they get more money.
Mm-hmm.
So if they're doing that for the money, why wouldn't they throw a game for money?
Yeah.
That's my question.
Yeah, it's. I hope it doesn't get widespread, but I think there's always been some form of gambling on college games. Probably not as much as there is today because it seems like it's so easy to gamble now. I mean, you go online or
it's
whatever.
not like you're going the day before to do a parlay or
it's
you're
not
sitting
like
there
you go
making just a straight bet on a point spread a couple days before a game. You can literally be betting on how many rebounds somebody is going to have by halftime.
Yeah.
And do it right before tip-off and I think that's the attraction.
It's so easy to do now.
And I mean, from the problem of the bigger world outside of the athletes, it's a problem for guys who are in that high school to 35 range. It's becoming a national problem, and we're seeing the symptoms of it, and concerns about it are beginning to develop. That now that we're actually paying attention to it, but it's were they really all that wrong in wanting to keep gambling out of making it legal? That you just had to go to Vegas to do it legally, and let's keep it on the down low in the background.
Well, I don't know a lot about gambling. I don't gamble on sports, but I can tell you this: it's not set up for you to win.
And it can be addictive.
It's not
to some
set up
people.
for you to win.
Yeah.
And if you talk to somebody that gambles on sports, they go, "Well, I won $100 last week."
You lost $500 last
Well, yeah. How many bets did it take for you to win that $100? Did you lose 500? Or somebody goes over here to North Carolina, goes down to Cherokee, and they come back and they say, "Yeah, I won $1,000 down there last weekend." Well, yeah, how much did you spend to win the 1,000?
Yeah.
You got to count that.
Yeah.
So it's just not set up to win. It's just
No,
not.
there is a reason that businesses go into taking bets. It's because they make money.
Yeah. But if you look at sports through the years, gambling has been a black cloud. I mean, really, there's been some bad stuff that's happened with gambling going on. I'm really kind of surprised that there hadn't been more bad stuff that's happened to this point based on the history of gambling in sports. I don't know.
I think there's probably more things that have gone on than we will ever know about.
Yeah.
Because of the shadiness and the unseen portion of it. But now, I mean, you're not hiding from anything now.
Yeah.
If you do this and people catch on that they think you can do it, it's very easy for them to backtrack and prove that you did it.
Yeah. And what keeps a player, Dwayne? What keeps a player from looking at sports, whether he's playing in the game or whether he's betting on another college school or whether he's a basketball player and he's looking at football game? What keeps a player, that's involved from just going to a buddy and saying, "Hey, would you place some bets for me?"
Yeah.
I mean, what keeps somebody from doing that? Do you think any of that goes on?
Sure it does. And young kids, they'll try to do stuff like that and not even think anything about it. Say, hey, make a little extra money,
Yeah.
Maybe take some of their NIL money and put it down,
Right.
to bet possibly. Who knows?
I don't know. It's a story to continue to watch, don't you think, Marcus? I think it's a story to keep an eye on.
It's something we're going to have to be aware of from here on out going forward because, let's face it, the majority of states, it's legal to do sports betting now. And it's just going to be a part of life that how is it going to impact the game? I don't know. I mean, I don't see it not having an impact on the game at this point.
when I saw the commercial, I thought, gosh, I didn't know that was going on. You know, who's keeping all this quiet? But
so
evidently they made it sound like it was a pretty big problem.
So how do you police that? I mean,
And the thing is, once upon a time, if you were going to harass an athlete, you pretty much had to show up at the game and yell at them from the stands.
Yeah.
Well, now you get on social media and you just dog them out and send them direct messages on social media.
yeah.
And I would hope most athletes at this point are kind of tuned out to their social media. But then again, they're kids. So they'd probably have just one profile, or maybe they have multiple. But people are tagging them and finding them and doing this to them.
Yeah, we had the athletic dorm back when I played, so they certainly knew where you were. But we didn't have any of this going on. They just got on you for losing with no ramification, just the loss. It wasn't gambling or anything. Just got on you for losing. If you lost a game, you wasn't supposed to lose.
Yeah.
But well, we already talked about Tennessee baseball, and they go to 24-2, I think, and in their overall record, and I think they're still ranked number one. Tennessee baseball still ranked number one in the country, aren't they?
They went into the week ranked number one.
I think so.
They had that midweek game it was kind of entertaining. I don't know if anybody else tuned in for that, but it was, it was a close back and forth for a couple innings, and Tennessee broke it up with a huge inning.
Queens.
And but last night I thought, double check myself, how many batters he faced, but Dylan Loy came in to get the save last night. Because South Carolina kind of started to put a rally there in the bottom of the ninth, and he came in and shut them down, got those last two outs. That guy is just developing. We saw him last week, and not last week, but last season, and saw that potential. But wow, he's already coming in big moments this second season, and just making plays.
Yeah, and in the Lady Vol softball team, they're number 10 in the country, and they beat Oklahoma, one of the premier programs in America. Number 2, beat them out there yesterday 5-2.
And that was, it was tied 2-2. They went to extra innings, and Lady Vols got put up 3 runs in that extra inning, and I think Oklahoma had won 18 or 19 straight coming into that game.
Yeah, that was a big
Remember,
win.
last season they won, 50-something straight games going into the College World Series. So, that's a huge program, and that's a big win that's for in that conference
and
series.
They needed it. They were coming off a series loss, I think, last weekend to Arkansas.
And, we've talked all season about the men and how they beat each other up in basketball. I'm not sure we're not getting ready to see the exact same thing with baseball and softball.
Right.
Because you got a Florida team that, for all intensive purposes, looked extremely good coming into the SEC season in baseball and lost their first 7 games in SEC play. And of course, you have to play Tennessee and Georgia. That's understandable to a degree. But, you're not having your best day. You can lose a series very quickly in the SEC.
Yeah. What's really great about the softball team and the baseball team doing well, Dwayne, is the fact that here's the basketball team on the verge of a Final Four. But when basketball is over, by golly, you don't lose any enthusiasm. Because baseball, you go from football to basketball to baseball, you don't lose any enthusiasm at all, do you?
Exactly. There's a lot of good things going on at Tennessee. And as far as their stadium over there, are they still packing it out? Or
oh yeah. I remember when we used to be. You could go in on a Friday afternoon SEC series, and the stadium would be maybe a quarter full. Student section would be almost empty. It'd be like you and 20 other people in the student section. But that midweek game, that stadium looked packed. It looked like a sold out crowd.
Yeah.
So how many will it hold now? They increased the.
I don't even remember its capacity. It's over. I think
not
it's over
enough.
10. It's going to hold. It'll hold more. They're going to keep. The Palace is going to keep on being built.
Yeah, when they put more seats in there, it won't be enough. It will not be enough if they keep up what they're doing right now. Because I've never seen Tennessee baseball go to the standard it is right now as far as fan support.
We've seen them good in the past, and it was before my time, but they had good programs in the 60s and 70s, but not at this level.
Not this level. And the Lady Vol basketball team, they're looking at an Elite 8. They play Texas today. I believe that's at 3:30. and I think it's
I think it's an ABC game.
ABC game, yeah.
So how long has
but
it been
they-
since
but
the
they-
Lady Vols were on ABC?
It's been a long time. But
Been a
they
while.
played Texas pretty tough. I think and they lost. I think the head coach there at Tennessee was out for that game. She did not.
I believe
coach.
that was that the baby game?
I think it was. So she did not coach, but it was a close game.
It was close.
Pretty throughout. So I look for them to play well. If they win that one, they'll play the winner of Notre Dame and TCU, and the Notre Dame Lady Irish have had a pretty good year up there. So that'll be a tough. But all the games at this point they get tough.
But I think I still go back to the thing about it was almost a year ago. We were sitting here and we were saying if the Lady Vols were 500, Tennessee fans should be happy because you were losing your coach, you were losing your whole roster. There's no way they're going to be good. They're not going to be able to. I mean, it's going to be a rebuilding from the ground up.
I got my right hand up.
And I do too. I was right there with them. But they've made the Sweet 16, which is as good as they've done in the last decade.
Yeah, and they got as good a chance as any to go on.
Is it good enough for Lady Vol fans, that fan base?
Yeah.
Well, they have higher standards, but they should be just ecstatic that Lady Vols and this program are back in the Sweet 16 after what has gone on in the last 12 months with the program.
Absolutely.
I think it has something to do with the way she brings, people off the bench. She just keeps.
Hey, listen.
It's working.
If you play that many players, Dwayne, and you get them running in and out like that,
you get the other
and
team
you give them
tired.
more opportunities to play, and you win.
Yeah.
You're keeping a lot of people happy.
Exactly.
You can sell a lot. You can do a lot of selling on a deal like that.
Plus, you're wearing the other team down.
Wearing them down.
And there's we've seen that system around here. I mean, we saw Todd Wright run it. We saw him have it at William Blunt. We've seen several teams that have run that kind of defense and the 5-and-5 switch outs and that sort of thing. But there is a trick to that. There is a knack to, because your players have to come in on fire, and you have to be able to read the game to know when to make those kinds of changes. It's not just like, they look like they might be a little bit tired right now. We need to do a change at the next foul shot. You've got to be really in tune with the energy level of your players and your bench and who's going to match up with who's on the court. There's a real art to it, and I think they're doing it very well right now.
Yeah,
as good as anybody else using that system right now.
Yeah. And you got to have some players to do that. And you got to have some players that'll buy into that, because there's a lot of players that they want to be on the floor.
Yeah,
they want to be on the floor all the time. But if you've extended your defense to 94 feet and your game on offense and defense is 94 feet, by the time you're ready for a substitution maybe to play that style.
Yeah.
So, but it's working for him, and that's the way she's going to recruit, and that's the way she's going to play. So I think that hopefully she can go on. But I think it's really it's great that the men and women are both at about the same point. If they win today, then both of them are in the Elite Eight. But you see this a lot in college sports where the men and the women's program are advancing a lot. You see that with Connecticut.
You see it with some, like UConn, and you've seen it in the past with Tennessee. But a lot of schools don't pull that off. I mean, you saw some ACC schools pull it off for a while with UNC and Duke.
Right.
But it's very hard to maintain both at the same time at very high level, and
throw baseball in there.
Yeah, and I mean,
there's three.
You think about what it took to keep Coach Barnes in place, and to make this coaching hire, and Tony White's cousin Danny is looking pretty good for an AD
Right.
that is his first AD job, not his first AD job, but at a Power 5 conference program. That he's made some really good calls. I won't say he's perfect and hasn't gotten some things I would take issue with, but he's made some good decisions on hiring his coaches.
You got a good fan base here. I mean, you not got a pro team here. You got the Vols.
Right.
So that's what people want to go see.
Right. And they don't care about anybody else.
No,
either.
and they'll pay the money to go see them.
Well, as much as it costs.
Yeah, even if they're not winning, and a lot of times they'll go watch the
And
Vols.
you know what? Probably nothing helps Tennessee baseball as much as TBS dropping the Braves.
Yeah.
You know, if the Braves were still on TBS every night,
Yeah.
maybe Tennessee baseball isn't as popular as it is, even with their success. But
Yeah.
I don't think anything has helped Tennessee baseball, the Smokies, high school baseball as much as the Braves not being on TBS every game.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. Let's talk about Rick Barnes a little bit. Last week he said that he'll be back. He'll be back. He's not retiring at the end of this round ball season. Plans to go forward and prepare a team to be on the floor next year. He has a 835 and 422 record in 38 seasons, and he's 231 and 232 now, and 108, I think, with the Vols in 10 seasons. And I'm quoting him here. He says he'll know when it's time to go, when God says it's time to go. Well, do you think God will say it's time to go if he wins a national championship, Dwayne? Huh? Because he could do that.
He could do that. I think he's going for 1,000 wins. That's what I think.
You think so? What do you think, Marcus? You
I
think if he
think
wins
that's
a national championship,
I think
he'll
it's a
walk away?
dangerous way to phrase it because it almost sounds like you're inviting an invitation to have a heart attack on the court, doesn't it?
I guess.
When it is your time.
It's time to go. Yeah.
that
he's
last-
looking a little stressed. You know, looking at him last night, he's looking a little. I mean, that's a lot of wear and tear on somebody now, I'm telling you. But
I think he will. I think there is a competitiveness within him. Obviously, we can see that, but most coaches would be kind of, man, I am losing an All-American point guard. I've got my pipeline's kind of dry there. This is going to be a tough I think he sees that whole situation as a challenge.
Well, he might.
Like, can he bring in the next great point guard for this program and teach them how to play the way he wants them to play?
Yeah, I hope you're right. But, he's been around a long time, and, he's within reach of the national championship. They asked him the question last week. He's not going to say, no, this is it. I'm not coming back. He's not going to make that comment.
No.
He made the comment that he needed to make right there. But
You don't think he's in that coaching,
I'm
that,
just-
that style of coach that
I'm
says,
just-
guys, I know we're in the NCAA tournament, but I'm actually getting ready to sign a deal to go someplace else. So before we go into this first tournament game, just know that when we're done, I'm done here.
No,
You don't
it's
think Rick
not.
is that type of
he's
coach?
not that type of coach, but I just think, he wins a national championship and he sits down and he goes, well, I've won a national championship. I've taken teams to the Final Four. I've built this program here. I'm on top of my game.
He's 9th all time. Now, as far as coaching.
maybe this is the time to step aside. And for Vol fans, Dwayne, that time is going to come. It's going to come.
Yeah, I think he'll stay around for another 3 to 5 years.
Okay.
So as long as his health is good. Well, I mean, if you enjoy what you do, it's not really a job, You're getting paid good, too. But if you enjoy it.
Prop him up over there.
Apparently he still enjoys it, so that's good. I'm glad he enjoys it.
Well, it fits his deal, going to the transfer portal.
Yeah.
I mean, that team that we got on the floor out there, you can talk Vol for life all you want, but these are Vols for 1 year.
Yeah, like Ziegler, picked him up, from New York, and he's like a nobody, and gets him down here, and he's what? Look what he's done.
It's 4-year starter.
Yeah, he's he's setting SEC records now. Ziegler is.
Yeah.
He's closing in on the conference record, isn't he?
He's got the
Tennessee record.
He's got the 270 assists this year, I believe. So that's the SEC record, I reckon.
Well, he's got the ball when he's out there about 95% of the time. So if you got it 95% of the time, you ought to get yourself a few assists here and there.
Yeah,
but he's done an outstanding job. There's no doubt about it, and he's the guy that makes them go. Let's talk a little bit about Tennessee. They played Kentucky last night. They won 78-65. And, Dwayne, it was just about like the other NCAA games. Tennessee got out early, 12 to 13 points, and that's just about where it stayed.
Yeah.
That's 3 games in a row. It's been played like that, hasn't it?
When they get behind early, it's a rough road.
It really is.
But they've done good here the last 3 games. And I'll tell you what, Gainey, to me, is the difference of Tennessee winning. He has been big. Well, I think he got how many points this last game? Is it 16?
Gainey got 16 points. Yeah,
Yeah,
last
I mean,
night.
he's been huge.
But if he gets double digits, Tennessee does well.
Yeah, they're unbelievable. They haven't lost.
Yeah,
I think they've only lost 2 games when he gets 10 points or more.
And what
9
about
points
that
or more.
dunk he did? I mean,
I
he took it
don't
to the
know.
goal and dunked. I mean,
And, you know, it was just like there were points, especially in the second half, where it was, and I didn't understand it because he was already, you know, had 8 or 9 points in the first half. Like Kentucky forgot about him.
yeah.
Like he was coming back he would be coming down the lane, and it was like nobody collapsed in on him,
No.
especially like on that dunk. Like it was way too easy.
He's more physical. I don't know who their weight trainer is over there, but he looks more fit now, and he don't get just bounced off. You know, the guys used to he's a little bit smaller, but now he's right in it, takes his, the ball of the basket now and stuff, and then they went to that zone, and he throw it inside to him right there. He made it inside.
Yeah, I
the
thought that
lane
was
right
a
there.
crazy move. Going to a zone and you're down 12 points. What are you doing? And everybody and the brother can shoot the ball outside and guarding
They
anybody.
just threw it to Gainey
I-
down.
I
Mike,
didn't get it.
I wanted to ask you this. You know this better than I would. If you drop into a zone, are you not conceding the rebound?
Pretty much. There's no block out. It's hard to box out in the zone. Your box out responsibility in a zone is an area. Not a man, it's an
Yeah.
area. So if you don't box out, but, look at Kentucky. I told Dwayne before the show, they don't play very good defense. Kentucky's ranked very low in defensive performance nationally, and they don't rebound. Well, if you don't rebound, you don't play defense, you're in real trouble.
Yeah.
And it got them in real trouble last night because Tennessee just got too many second chances down on their offensive end. It was the big difference in the game. You give somebody that many champions, you're going to get in trouble. And then they got behind, and you get behind to Tennessee, it's tough because Tennessee's going to milk the clock on the offense. They're going to run it down to about 4 or 5 seconds, make you work the tar out on your defensive end. Then they're going to go down on the offensive end. They're going to force you to run that clock down because, especially in the half-court game, and it makes it real tough to come back. And then they took the transitional game away from Kentucky. They ran no transition, no fast breaks. That was it. Ball game. Seal it.
Kentucky didn't shoot very well, I didn't think. That Bray, I think that's his name. He had like 5 points. And Butler, I think he had like 18. But he didn't play as aggressive as he has I've seen in the past. I mean, I was really worried about him because he usually takes it to the basket and causes fouls on us. But it's like they were just kind of nonchalant out there last night. To me, that's the way Kentucky. I think if you have beat somebody twice, it's just kind of in your head, hey, we can beat these guys. But you got to step up every game.
I told you. I said the only person that showed any enthusiasm was Pope over there, the coach. The rest of them looked like they were bored and ready to go home.
Don't you have to, if you're Kentucky, don't you have to be sort of aware? Their best player went 0 for 7 at the three-point line against us in Lexington, in our house. If he hits one of those 7, we lose. So the fact that they came in just kind of droopy dog, so I'm not, hey, we
got this.
They didn't. You're right, because they did not show the energy you would
No,
expect
they
from a
did
Sweet
not.
16 game, especially in a rivalry game.
I was waiting for them to come out after halftime. I figured they would be a different team, but they weren't. They just kept playing that same
I don't
way.
understand what happened with that.
Here was the big statistic to me. Tennessee in those losses, they were trying to convince themselves that they could really beat somebody with three-point shooting. And they took 40-some shots against Kentucky, and they shot miserably.
Yeah.
Well, last night, obviously, Barnes said, we're not going to put on a three-point clinic. Tennessee only took 19 threes last night. That was half of what they had pretty much taken in the 2 previous games, and they hit 5. I mean, they only shot 26.3% last night from three-point range. So you can imagine if he said, okay, throw up 40 more and see how we do in this basketball game. I think that was a big difference. They took the ball to the basket last night. They challenged Kentucky in there. They got 3-point shots or 3-point plays on the inside on the drive plus a free throw. And they got Kentucky to where they got them in a little bit of foul trouble. And with 8 or 9 minutes left in the game, we were at the free throw line, shooting foul shots. And, I mean, that's a tough deal. And we're shooting foul shots real well right now.
And
we were 15 for 20 last night.
Points off the bench, too. Tennessee controlled that, too. I think they got
Yeah,
like
21
to
20,
6.
and that was a bad night for them.
21-6. Now that points off the bench. When you see that every game, Tennessee usually wins that.
Yeah.
But you got to understand that that's Gainey coming in there, and they bring him off the bench, but he could be a starter. Really,
Yeah,
I mean, you know what I'm saying. I mean, that's a little deceiving with the minutes he's playing.
He's
bringing
playing
him in.
very well. I'm impressed with Gainey right now.
Yeah, but free throws, Tennessee out rebounded Kentucky 34 to 24, and another big statistics, and this is why it's so difficult to beat Tennessee when they get ahead, is they only turned the ball over 8 times. They're not going to beat them. Folks, if you beat Tennessee, I don't care if it's this year, last year, the year before, I don't care. Since Rick Barnes has been here, they're not going to beat themselves. No. They're not going to turn the ball and beat themselves, turn it over out there. And last night they only had 8 turnovers in that basketball game.
Good.
That's you're just not gonna lose very many. But Marcus, I thought Tennessee just took Kentucky completely out of their game. When they played the first couple of times, Kentucky spread Tennessee out, spread them out down there on the offensive end, worked the ball around, got good perimeter looks. Last night they got nothing. I mean, it looked like they were just standing around. They were confused. I don't know what they learned from the first few games. Evidently, they didn't grow on that, and Tennessee figured out something to stop the spread on their offense down there to where they couldn't operate.
Tennessee was switching so much better last night and doing a better job with speed of the switch. And that, I mean, they weren't trying to stay right on the player and stay as close as possible. They were more concerned about how fast they got around the screen and got back onto the player, because Kentucky does not shoot quickly off coming around that screen or coming around a pick, either one. They are kind of lackadaisical, like get in your spot, get in your stance, they don't put it up really quick. And I think Tennessee figured out that as long as they got there before they shot it, that they could defend them. Mm-hmm. Because usually Tennessee tries to stay very close to them and get that, so that they are coming right around the hip of whoever's in the way. They were given that a little more room, but being quicker getting to the spot because of it.
Yeah. For people that's watching Tennessee play and they're anxious about they're going to be playing Houston, and they could be looking at either Duke or Alabama if they make it to the Final Four. But I think this Tennessee basketball team is playing the best defense in the country right now. They're playing the best defense in the country, and if their formula for winning is simple. You play the solid defense, you make teams work for their points, penetrate with the ball on offense, come away with points or fouls, take a three only if you got a good clean three. Last night, Dwayne, when they shot and made those threes, they were pretty well uncontested threes. Yeah. There wasn't anybody there. They had no choice but to take the shot. That's what I'm trying to say. They were clean threes. Don't turn the ball over, which they don't do, and limit teams to one shot.
Yeah, they were stifling.
Limit teams to one shot.
Kentucky's having a hard time getting shots off. I thought our defense was stifling to them. That just kind of threw them off.
Yeah, if you're playing Tennessee. And I just read you the formula right there that's going to be on Houston's when they go into their team meeting to prepare for this game. That's what they're going to be looking at right there. It's going to be a game where when you play Tennessee, every single possession, it counts.
Exactly.
Every single possession from the first of the game on. And like when Tennessee turned it over twice the first half. So they're up 12, 13 points at halftime.
Could have been more.
Yes, it could have been more. But 12 or 13 points against a team like being up 12 or 13 points, being down against a team like Tennessee is not like being down 12 or 13 to an Alabama or a Duke that goes up and down the floor and shoots the ball. Tennessee, it's going to take you a long time in most cases to make up 13 points is what I'm trying to say.
They could have been down by 19.
Yes.
I thought, wow, if I can just keep that, don't get it close to 10 at halftime.
I don't want to put a damper on the deal, but when they got up 13 – I flipped over to the Michigan State Ole Miss game because I'm just thinking, folks, this game's over. Go get you a cold one and some popcorn and relax. Because if Kentucky comes back, it's going to take them 15 or 16 minutes to come back.
Exactly.
It's just the way Tennessee plays. It's just hard to make it up. Hey, we'll take a break here, and when we come back, veteran sports writer Marcus Fitzsimmons will join us with his feature, Mark It Down. You're listening to the Goteez Sports Page, Blount County Sports Voice, and now stay tuned for the best in local sports.
For over 90 years, Anderson Lumber Company in Alcoa has proudly served and supported our local communities. Locally owned, so the money made here stays here. Whether you're renovating a kitchen, bath, new floors, doors, or windows, Anderson Lumber is so much more than a lumber store and can take care of you from design to install. We welcome you to visit Anderson Lumber in Alcoa for all your home's needs, or shop over 67,000 items online at AndersonLumberCompany.com. Anderson Lumber since 1925. Aubrey's is known for real comfort, real food, real good. But remember, Aubrey's is also really into Blount County. Aubrey's Maryville has been a strong supporter of local schools and sports programs for more than 15 years. From baseball to football, dance teams, and marching bands, Aubrey's has helped schools and youth programs generate thousands of dollars. It's easy for us to do because it's the right thing to do. So the next time you're looking to choose a place to eat, we hope you'll choose Aubrey's. Real comfort, real food, real good. See what's on the menu at aubreysrestaurants.com.
Welcome back to the Goteez Sports Page, and I'm here with Dwayne Easter and Marcus Fitzsimmons, and Marcus, Donnie Moore usually comes in with some high school sports scores and stuff, but he's not here, so I'm going to turn it over to you, guy. I guess not. I guess not. I guess we can't get a hookup right here. So, Dwayne, we'll talk a little.
There we go.
Okay,
Sorry.
got it. All right. All right. Saved by the bell.
The button said it was red, and it wasn't red. I don't know how Donnie deals with that. And you know, obviously, I am filling in for Donnie, and it's a tough job to do, Mike. I'll tell you what. There's a lot of buttons and gears and gizmos over there.
Yeah, but you're doing a good job. You're doing a lot better job than Dwayne and I'd be doing.
Yeah,
we've done been off the air.
Yeah, I guarantee you.
So it is time for the local scoreboard, brought to you by Mandy B Street Realty. Got a couple scores. It was a busy week, but trying to just get the highlights from the end of the week. And let me say, it was. We know it was signing week, and there were so many that we're just going to put them together for next week so we can get everybody at once and not just kind of piecemeal it out. But William Blount had, I think, 8 or 9 sign on Thursday. Maryville had some signings. I mean, there were a lot of spring sports signings that took on this week. But on the fields, baseball. Clinton took a win over Eagleton last night, 11-2, in I think it was the first game of one of the tournaments that's continuing to play today, and it's why we have a shortage of available athletes to visit with this morning, because there are tournaments going on all over the place, and they are all committed this morning.
Yeah.
But I think Maryville, William Blount, Heritage, and Eagleton are all involved in tournaments this weekend. Murfreesboro Central squeaked a 4-3 win over Greenback last night. I think Greenback fell to 8-4 on the season. William Blount won a close one last night, Mike. Beat Howland, Ohio.
Wow.
I don't know where Howland is, but
it's up there. Ohio's next to Indiana. That's all I can tell you.
okay. I'm sure
Don't know much about them.
I'm sure in East Tennessee baseball announcer voice they were howling, but it is Howland, Ohio, as far as it's spelled. But the Govs took a 15-14 win in that one last night. On the soccer pitch, a big district game for Maryville, and they unfortunately came up on the wrong side of it against Knox West, took a 2-1 loss at the Kerr Soccer Facility. Rivalry game, this one's I'm going to give you Gavin Wolf for Heritage had 2 goals, but unfortunately the Mountaineers lost to Alcoa 5-3. Tornadoes got the win. Had a great performance from their sophomore goalkeeper. I believe he came away with 4 big saves in that one. But that growing rivalry that we keep talking about is going to be even bigger next year. Alcoa got the win there, which was good because on the softball field we had that same rivalry. And Alcoa came away with the 6-1 win over the Lady Mountaineers. And I'm going to say Heritage put their run up. They were in potential to bring a lot more in. And Gabby Burkhart got out of that jam and just went the rest of the way, just kind of cruised. That pitching staff at Alcoa is just so deep. And they can bring so much at you if somebody's having a bad night. So it was a good win for the Lady T's there.
They've got a girl that's signing with UT, don't they? The Bailey, is there?
They've got
played basketball.
She's not a senior.
She's not a senior,
but
she's committed to UT. Though.
I think we had all 6. I believe we had all 6 seniors here earlier this year. All 6 of them have signed. So let's see, and then the rivalry one, the one that people are talking about, ended up being with Lady Govs. Took a 9-7 win over Maryville on Thursday night. But Lady Rebels went into the 7th inning with a 7-3 lead.
Really?
And Lady Govs plated 6 runs in the 7th inning to win the game.
Wow.
And for Coach Nick Roddy, and this is his first year running that program since Amanda Leatherwood retired, having late game hitting like that in a clutch situation in a rivalry game, that's huge in this district.
Yeah, it is.
It really that's a huge win, not just because of the rivalry, but because it is a quality team in a district that is full of quality teams, and you have that kind of late game heroics and hitting. That's something that can feed you a long way in this type of season. Because it's a very compact season. Because it's going to be April 1st on Tuesday.
Yeah.
That only leaves a month really for them to play, and then you're in the district tournament. So it's a very compact season. Even though we've added a week at the front end, spring break kind of cuts it off a little bit. But that kind of wraps up what's going on the end of the week here. I do want to give another shout out to Blount County. The softball portion at the New Eagleton Ballpark got its grand opening on Tuesday night. Same amount of fanfare they did for baseball. I think we had maybe even more officials there for softball than we did for baseball. But it was a great opening night for them. Eagleton got the win and I believe they won 2 more this week. It's great for the girls to have their own facility and have a place to call home, and it's just as important for them as it was for the guys. People have asked me about the rest of the park and the other fields. They kind of put a little bit of a expedite to get the high school fields ready in time for the seasons. So the other fields they're looking at, it's going to be probably late summer, maybe all the way into September, depending on the weather and what it does before those other fields are open and all the construction equipment is gone and the barrels come down and all that sort of stuff. So parking over there is still going to be a little bit of a challenge while the construction equipment's there, but there should be enough that unless they both have big games the same night, it shouldn't be too much of an issue.
What are those buildings that they're building, pretty good-sized buildings? What are those going to be used for? Is that
at the park?
Yeah, at the park.
Some of them are part of the complex for the scorers and that centralized area where you can host big tournaments. And some of it, I believe, is going to be I'm not sure if it's maybe future use for office space if there's a company running it for the county as a vendor.
Okay. Yeah, I didn't know.
But there's going to be they also had to put in a lot of storage space and equipment space. Even though those fields are turf, they've still got to take care of turf, and especially if you're looking at running, 6-7 games a day, possibly on some of those for some weekends.
Yeah, it looks really impressive. I'm amazed at what all they've done over there because there was really bad drainage. At that
They have
place.
done, that was one of the things I talked with the county finance director about, and he's been extremely involved in that along with Mayor Ed Mitchell. But that it came from from the COVID relief funds that, and it took a long time to get them everything approved and get it done. But the first thing they had to do was to fix that drainage.
Oh yeah.
And remember it used to flood on Lincoln Road at the first sign of rain. But that's all sort of things that were addressed in that, and that was a 7-figure project before they could even start on the ballparks
Yeah,
itself.
there's a lot of drainage problems. I played Babe Ruth out there, baseball. So yeah, I got a lot of memories playing out there. But it looks fantastic the way they've got it now. Really impressed. So they'll be able to have events there for bringing from other cities to come and play. And
That's the plan, is that they can use it kind of like what Gatlinburg does with Sportsplex for soccer,
yeah,
that you're going to have a set of turf fields in a centralized facility. You can play rain or shine. It's going to be a brand new facility. So while there's some bigger ones around, not so much in East Tennessee, but I mean, you've got the Cal Ripken experience.
Johnson City, I think's got.
But you've got Johnson City, you've got Murfreesboro that has the Starplex. But
yeah.
this won't be this isn't as big, but it's also turf, and it's not 25 or 30 years old.
Yeah.
So you've got a lot of newer amenities for people to be able to use that you don't see in those other facilities.
One thing I was kind of curious how they're going to do their parking. I didn't. It looks like they're going to need a lot of parking over there.
There's part of that in the plan, and like I said, right now a lot of the construction equipment and storage of that equipment's taking up a lot of parking.
Taking a lot of parking. But even with that, if they have some pretty big crowds, they might have a parking issue. I don't know.
We'll see. Well, that would be a nice problem for them to have. I'm sure they would find a way to deal with it.
What's kind of neat, me and a buddy of mine used to own the bullpen batting cages. We had that, so I was like, man, it'd been great if we were still in business right now, because that new complex
right there,
where O'Reilly's is there now. But I was like, man, it'd be a lot of big draw from that facility.
Yeah.
That's going to be a fantastic facility.
And I also got confirmation that, I mean, it's being used already, but I believe its official opening is just right now on the horizon. But Parks and Rec is going to be officially opening, doing a ceremony at the new Everett Field where they put that turf in, and they've got the giant Bulldog logo out at
really?
midfield on the 50-yard line. They're going to do the official opening for that. And if you're a fan of playing surfaces, which is odd to say, but if you're a player, the good news is those pine trees on the far end are coming down.
Oh, really?
And if you've been sliding around or been tackled on, and you happens to be that time of year where you end up with a bunch of brown pine needles sticking to you at the back of you because they're laying on the field, that's a great relief.
Yeah.
If you're in charge of maintenance, it's a great relief because those things don't blow off like leaves do. They stick to the turf.
Yeah.
So
Kind of got a sap to them.
yeah. So that will be a nice change over there, I believe, because I really, if you've been over there and looked, because Joe Huff had said this, and I went to test him because you take your own lumps and test there if you're going to trust Joe on everything he says. But I went over to look, and he said that they'd gotten so tall that now they don't screen anymore because the trunk is now so tall that they don't screen the field, and they don't. Like, the coverage doesn't start until above the top of the houses, so it's not screening the lights from those houses at all anymore. So
yeah.
newer trees, younger trees, smaller, probably be more effective for them. So we're waiting on the date for that, but once we hear about it, we'll let folks know when that's going to be, because I think it's going to be for youth soccer is going to get to be the ones to go and play right after that.
So is Park and Recreation, are they running the Eagleton facility? Or
No, Parks and Rec, that Eagleton facility is a Blount County facility.
Okay. I wasn't sure on that.
Yeah. But I believe they are going to use, from what Joe and Chris told us when they were here, is that they will hopefully get to play some Smoky Mountain Classic games on the baseball field.
That'd be, yeah.
So
That'd be good.
that I believe they're going to move them from Springbrook the spring games, those 4 or 5 games usually at Springbrook will probably move over to the new facility.
Yeah.
But that's it for the local scoreboard, and we can mark it down. But I think we were really having more fun talking about the Vols.
We can do it.
So, Michael, let's just go back and talk about some of his Vols and finish up because there's a lot to unpack from what happened last night.
We can do it. I failed to mention the balanced scoring was big last night too. You look at teams that win in the tournament, you're looking for balanced scoring. And Zakai Ziegler had 18 points, Chaz Lanier 17 points, and Jordan Gainey 16 points. Dwayne, that's what you're looking for.
Balanced scoring, exactly.
That's what you're looking for. Going into this tournament on Selection Sunday, I saw our seeding and I thought, man, that for a number 2 seed, I'm liking that. You got Wofford, okay. UCLA, just okay. Okay. Kentucky, not a Kentucky of old. Kind of rebuilding up in Kentucky, a new coach, that type of thing. If you get them, like we have, really like it. But what I really like even more than that is the fact that you played in Lexington, you're playing in Indianapolis, and if you can get by Houston, you're going to Atlanta. I mean, how much – that is just an absolute – I mean, if you're wanting everything to fall in place, that's the way you want it. Gino Ariema is playing out in Spokane, Washington for the 3rd year with Connecticut. And he's got to go coast to coast, and he's just crying the blues about how they're seeding and how they're putting people in different places. And I'm thinking of him, and I'm thinking of this.
And our Vol fans can fill those arenas.
My gosh, where do you want to go here?
Exactly.
I mean, it's right here. You can just.
That's big when you got your fans there,
Yeah,
for you.
and you look at UCLA, and you think, well, how did that affect them coming all the way from L.A. to Lexington, to play? Of course, in some respects, they might have been used to it because the Big Ten, they have to travel back and forth that far anyway.
That's the effect of that big Mara kid because they only had 7 points.
Yeah, but you've got that 3-hour time difference, on the deal, and it makes a lot of.
I believe, what was it, half their road games were in Eastern time for UCLA this year.
Yeah, because of the Big Ten.
Because of the Big Ten.
Maybe not such a big deal. I don't know, but still, that's a long trip. If I'm looking at Tennessee and Tennessee's fans, I certainly wouldn't want to go to L.A. to play the open up the tournament.
That'd be an expensive trip.
Yeah, yeah. So hopefully they can come away against Houston, and we'll see them down here in Atlanta. I mean, that's Vol fans have traveled to Atlanta quite regularly, in past to see bowl games and big SEC games and championship games down there in football, in years past. So they're very familiar with Atlanta.
About like last night, did you feel like that where they're playing, that the background, you're in that big area and it's a lot darker than in a gymnasium. It seemed like at first that they were having a hard time getting their bearings on the goal. And have you ever played in a facility like that?
I never had to play in a
football
type of arena setting. I've heard it's difficult because of the background to get used to it, but that's what they go to in NCAA tournament.
If you noticed at first, they were like shooting air balls and all this stuff.
But I've watched a lot of these games, and regardless of where they play, it seems like everybody kind of gets off to a slow start for some reason or another.
They've been really
I don't
nervous
know.
too.
Yeah,
big arena.
It's a pressure deal and so forth. But what I've been surprised with is how Tennessee has been able to play as tough a defense as they've been playing, because I've always been a big believer in that the harder you play on defense, it takes away from your offense.
Yeah.
But here in the last few games, they have really stuck it down there on that defensive end, and surprisingly have played pretty well on the offensive end. They've shot the ball pretty well. And they're not real deep. They're not real deep.
No.
Play 8 players or so.
You said, defense takes away your legs.
Yeah,
but
believe that.
Tennessee is not relying on the jump shot in their success right now.
Oh, no, they don't want to do
That's
that. If they shoot them threes outside, they're in trouble.
They're taking it inside.
Right, and that makes a difference.
And I wish I had the insight into their coaching staff to know if the conversation actually took place. But I could see the conversation taking place when they came back from Lexington and are looking at who have we got for the Sweet 16 and looking at your three teams that you know you're going to play Kentucky and then you're going to play Houston or Purdue, and being like, okay, the best thing we can do is not waste a bunch of shots from the three-point line. Let's hammer it inside. Let's go down the lane. Let's make them guard us. Let's make them pick up fouls, because with Kentucky you have a team that beat you twice and knows how to and plays, yes, an SEC style. But with Houston and Purdue, you're facing two of the other best defensive teams in the country either way. So you know you're going to play a physical game, and if you fall away from those two teams, they will get you. You have to take it to them and make them pick up fouls. That's the only way you can play with those guys. Yeah. So I would think that was what they would tell the team is, guys, you might take a three, but you better hit it. I want to see you going down the lane.
And Ziegler's got that lob pass down low to Para. I mean, he's got that down pat. Last night, it just barely went over that Kentucky defenders, and he slammed it. I mean, they've got that down pat.
Yeah.
That's huge. When you can.
I'm real impressed with the fact that they are taking the ball. They're taking the ball to the bucket like they would do if they were behind in a basketball game at the end. You know, to try to draw fouls and go to the free throw line. But they're doing it right up front, and then they're being very disciplined and very patient on what their shot selections are from three-point range. They're not forcing anything out there. They're taking really good shots out there that you just can't pass up.
No.
Taking. And they're hitting them, and they're doing a good job with that. They're playing really well right now. I want to talk a little bit about, you know, when they were struggling a little bit during the year, I was talking about their offensive consistency, that you couldn't, count on anybody on any particular night. You know, Lanier was struggling. And Ziegler, he'd get you 18 one night, and he'd get you 2 the next night. And Gainey, you didn't really know what was. But it seems, Dwayne, that they've solved that a little bit, and you're getting a little bit more consistency out of those three guys scoring-wise, and you got to have
That's the difference right there. Those three guys right there are scoring consistently, 20, 18, 17. It might switch up who's the high scorer, but those three right there, I think, are keys to winning right now, especially Gainey. I'm really impressed with him.
Lately. He's done a good job. And Marcus, we're sitting here talking. They're in the same spot they were last year, and they came within a hair playing Purdue again, which would have been another home game for Purdue. So this game will probably have, with Houston there on Sunday, we'll probably have more Tennessee fans than Houston fans because of the distance up to Indianapolis. But what makes this year and this situation different than last year's situation?
You don't have to worry about that 7-foot monster in the middle.
Who doesn't get any 30 seconds called.
Don't get me wrong. Houston and Purdue both have good bigs, but that was a generational big you had to work with last year that you had to try to get around, and he carried Purdue to that win. He really did. But I think it will be just as big a test, even though the name is different. I think the game is going to be won by how the bigs can play. Tennessee's bigs are going to have to step up, and they're going to have to play the type of game they played against UCLA, where they are not letting the other team's bigs take over down low. They've got to contest, and they've got to make them work on both ends.
Dwayne, do you think Lanier is playing as well as Connect right now at this point compared to where we were last year?
Maybe not quite. I mean, he's playing well. Connect, he could, 30-something points, but Lanier's being very consistent around the 20-point mark, 24, 25 points, which is good, but I don't know if he's quite to Connect's.
Yeah, and if you look at that game last year against Purdue, down the stretch, Connect missed some shots.
Connect would take it to the goal and slam it a few times, too. He'd go down that lane.
He's a little different player. You got Lanier that's, best off the screen.
I don't know if you noticed this on the Internet. Did you see where Connect got a suite for the ball players, and they got to go in there and watch the game?
for the NBA game
Yeah.
the night before.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I don't know why that happened. These players are making all this money.
Must
They
be
should have got the
money.
suite for some of Connect's friends up
Yeah,
there. I don't know. That was nice of him to do that.
They got him food and everything. I mean,
Yeah.
that's nice, right?
Did Tony go to that too?
I don't know. We'll have to ask him.
Yeah, Tony White's not here this morning because he's back up there in Indianapolis.
Yes.
They got him on payroll, don't they?
As long as they're winning, he's
I
going to be
guess.
there at the game.
I
I
guess.
reckon.
but Connect versus Lanier, I think if you're on the other side, you have to guard Lanier like you would a Connect because
you
you know
do.
he's got that potential that if you leave him alone, he can light you up for 30.
Yeah.
But so I don't think it makes a difference whether he actually is scoring 30. But I think that the fact that they don't rely on him like they did Connect is better
Yeah.
for Tennessee because push comes to shove, the ball is not necessarily going to be in his hands.
Yeah.
And that is harder for the other team to figure out when you come down to those last 2 minutes and what they're going to try to do.
Yeah, if Connect only got like 10 points or something, we was hurting last year because we didn't have people stepping up.
Right.
And
He
we-
didn't have a good game
You
against
didn't have-
Purdue. No.
So yeah, if he wasn't scoring 30-something and he's scoring 10, then
No.
we usually would lose those games. So
Marcus, at this point, we've talked about Connect, we've talked about Lanier. How do you think this Tennessee team going into this Elite Eight compares to last year's Tennessee team going into the Elite Eight? How do they compare? Which would you rather have? And then which would you rather have?
I would rather have this one. Last year's had more potential, but it had gotten into a step back and let Dalton Connect score while we defend sort of thing. Because you had a bunch of good key players that were 6th, 7th year seniors, but they were all taking a step back. Whereas this group, there just seems they're not stepping back and saying so and so will take care of the scoring. They're all taking a bit of responsibility for the scoring.
Yeah.
And I like that better. I think it makes you having those various options makes you a more versatile team. It makes you harder to stop.
Yeah. Let's talk a little bit about.
one thing too, I think they're peaking right at the right time.
Oh,
That's
no
what
doubt about it.
That's what I
They
think.
look
you know.
fresh.
Yeah.
They look fresh. They don't look like they're worn down. That Kentucky looked like they were worn down last night.
Yeah,
They just look sluggish and worn down and like, I've got motel reservations at the beach. I got to get out of here.
Yeah. Yeah, they weren't into that game. I didn't think.
I don't like to feel sorry for Kentucky, but I felt a little bit sorry for Pope over there leading cheers, and everybody else just looked like they didn't really give a big flip.
No.
Did you read it that way or
Yeah.
not?
What do you think about that play where that player dragged Gainey down under the goal down there? That was kind of interesting. Of course,
Oh,
they got
Gainey was just as guilty in that one. I
well,
hate to
he
say
did
it, but
grab his
I
shorts.
hate to say it, but they hooked each other. That looked more like something you would see at a Heritage Alcoa wrestling match because both of them had elbows hooked and were
Gainey
pulling, and it was one pulled down, one did the flip over, and one pulled him down to the floor. But I agreed with the offsetting call.
I think Kentucky player started it, but then Gainey kind of grabbed his shorts as he's going down.
Well, I tell you this, I like Gainey,
Yeah.
and I'd take him in most situations out there in the court. But head up in a fight against that guy, I don't believe I'd put my money on Gainey. Even though he is a pretty tough guy, I'm not so sure I'd put it on him right there. So I guess it's good we kind of stopped action and moved on right there.
And honestly, I was afraid while we were watching that. I was afraid that they were going to tag one or the other and give them an ejection type call. I was very glad they did offsetting flagrant ones. So I mean because that was fair to what the action was.
And they got that under control pretty fast. I saw Ziegler kind of coming over there, and I noticed everybody they had to calm everybody down because that kind of got a little bit.
Yeah, and then
testy
I
right
also
there.
saw Ziegler turn and have his finger pointing at the scoreboard too. Kind of rubbing that in a little bit. I was worried right there in the last 3 or 4 minutes because you got a Kentucky team that knows they're not going to win the game and they're done.
Yeah.
That you don't. The last thing you don't want is an altercation right there where you're going to lose somebody for the next game or get somebody hurt or what there. And you could get that. If they let it get out of control right there, you could have.
That's true.
And that's what I was afraid of after that play took place. Oh, don't let this thing get out of control, and we have an altercation, and somebody,
It very could have easily got out of control.
Yeah, if somebody
right
gets
there.
hurt here or whatever, just going back. But, you got a rivalry there. You lost 2 straight from, and there was probably a little bit of
Trash talking.
jawing out there on the court a little bit. So,
Yeah.
you got to be a little bit afraid of that.
Yeah.
Hey, it's time to turn the page, and next up is the Anderson Lumber Company Player of the Week segment. You're listening to the Goteez Sports page, and now stay tuned for the best in local sports.
The Roger L. Newman Company began in 1984 with a vision of providing Blount County with excellent heating and cooling service. Mr. Newman also wanted a real business. No gimmicks and no high-pressure sales. They just fix it or replace it. They want to stay within your budget and make you comfortable. Their motto still stands true today. Call us first, we'll be there. Call Roger L. Newman Company at 982-5446 or visit online at rogerlnewman.com. Cooler temperatures are approaching. Upgrade your furnace now for as little as $50 a month. For over 50 years and 3 generations, the people of Blount County have trusted Stevenson Tire with their vehicles and their families. Our mission has always been simple: to provide quality products at reasonable prices with exceptional customer service. Featuring tire products from Michelin, B.F. Goodrich, Uniroyal, Bridgestone, Firestone, and Yokohama, Stevenson Tire also offers alignment and brake services at affordable prices. Stevenson Tire Company, 2411 East Broadway Avenue in Maryville. Call 983-1621 or online at stevensonTire.net.
Welcome back to the Bluetick Tavern in downtown Maryville. This is Mike Edwards, and I'm here with longtime sports writer Marcus Fitzsimmons and ex-Alcoa basketball great Dwayne Easter. And I want to talk a little bit about this tournament. I want to talk a little bit about the NCAA tournament and get you guys' take on how you think it's going. And I'll start with you, Marcus. What's your observation so far of this tournament?
Well, Mike, I'll tell you, I'm feeling let down.
Yeah.
I'm feeling
we got
let
Tennessee going
down.
to the Elite Eight. How do you feel let down,
I'm
son?
feeling let down this morning because I watched it last night, and I watched on Thursday night. And Thursday night, Arkansas was so close. For all intensive purposes, had won their way into the Elite Eight, and they collapsed at the end.
They blew 11-point lead with 4 minutes to go, or 12-point lead.
But they were ahead by 16 at one point.
Yeah.
They were hit by almost 20 at one
At
point.
21, yeah.
And I was just feeling so good for Arkansas. I wanted to put the glass slipper on that shoe on their foot, and they let me down. And
Wait a
last
minute.
night,
Before you go on, how do you put a glass slipper on a team that's got a $15 million NIL budget? That's what I want to know.
because they came in as a 10 seed.
Okay.
Well,
All right.
They got one of our players.
All right.
So.
Proceed.
And then I'm watching Michigan State last night, and I'm thinking, they're vulnerable. They're going to lose this game. And no, I was disappointed again. I thought, truthfully, I'm happy the SEC has 4 teams in the Elite Eight. Justifiably, I think you could say they could just as easily had 6 of the top 8.
Yeah.
Now, I'm sure if you're CBS and True TV and TBS, you're just thankful that didn't happen. But, for all the quacking that went on during Selection Sunday about the SEC being overrated, when you've got half the Elite Eight, when you had the potential to have 6 of those 8, your conference was as strong as you said it was.
And Ole Miss had a close game too, didn't they? Ole Miss.
Yeah, Michigan State.
Yeah.
And Ole Miss led that game most
Led most of the
way.
game.
Yeah, most of the game.
I mean, they were in, again, right in the last 4 minutes, they had the potential to win that game and let it get away from them.
Yeah. Well, on the other hand, Auburn last night. against Michigan, was behind. I don't know. They were behind 11 points. I think it was 49-38, and they went on some ridiculous run of about 26-4 or something like that, outscoring Michigan, and then ended up beating them. So, you're looking at that, and you talking about turning a game around right there toward the end. That was unbelievable. They hit everything they threw up there. Auburn did. But anyway, I was thinking about these games, and of course we don't have any Cinderellas in there. No Cinderella.
No.
There's no mid-majors. They're all gone. And I listened to people all week long. They said, well, it's just a unique year. Last year the Cinderellas are around and the mid-majors are around. And I'm not so sure it's unique anymore. I'm looking at these teams. I'm looking at these games. You got Auburn, you got Michigan State, you got Florida, you got Texas Tech, you got Duke, you got Alabama, Houston, Tennessee. Folks, I'm going to tell you right now, I don't mean to be ugly, but you got the best teams money can buy. You got the best teams money can buy left in the NCAA tournament, and I think that's the way it's going to be. And they're taking these players from these mid-majors, and we're all Tennessee Vol fans, and we're all wanting the Tennessee Vols to win, and we're all saying, man, these guys are going to be Vols for life. Well, let me just tell you, I'm going to bring you back to reality. You only got two players, impact players out there that's been around here in this program, and that's Zakai Ziegler and that's Jamal Meshack. The rest of these guys have been, I don't want to like to use the word, but they've been bought. You got Chaz Lanier, Igor Milicek, Darlington Stone Dubar, Jordan Gainey, and Felix Opara. They all came in from last year. They're one-year guys, the transfer portal guys. They haven't been here 3 or 4 years. That's not only just unique here at Tennessee, and I'm not downplaying or getting on the Vols. That's the deal. That's what we got right now in college basketball. It's the transfer portal out there, and it opened up last Monday, and Tennessee's playing and trying to get players out of that. UCLA signed a real good player out of the portal, and where are they getting them, Marcus? Mid-majors, and a lot of times they're getting them from some of the majors that have been beaten out of the tournament. But the days of somebody coming in as a freshman, building that team until they're senior, those days are gone, boys. They're gone.
I don't think they're gone.
So
they're almost gone. They're out there on a thread.
So here's the comparison I would make is you look at what the situation before they cut back the draft was with Major League Baseball. If you were a kid in high school, you were a good player, you made a choice about whether you were going to go to college, whether you were going to go junior college, or whether you were going to take a late round offer for a minimal amount of money to go play in the minors. But there were some players who were knew they were going to be in the majors within a year. They weren't going to spend a lot of time in the minors. I think it's the same thing for a kid now, is they're going to be in the position of a really good elite player will go to a Power 4 school and play right away. But if you're not that player, your option might be to go to a mid-major knowing you're going to transfer in 2 years, or to go to a 2-year school knowing you're going to transfer in 2 years. And that it's going to be like the minors in college and that whole feeder program that
on the show here.
you're going to be able to – they're going to choose. But it's not going to be the system we had where every kid comes in for 4 years.
Yeah. Well, if you're looking at this Tennessee team, again, I'll take it a step further. You're really looking at an all-star team. Where these people came from, and you've put them together. And it's amazing. And Coach Barnes, Rick Barnes, he does as good a job as anybody in the country in taking transfer portal guys and making teams out and making a good team out. And obviously he recruits players that he feels like is going to fit his system. And he gets experience. It's sort of like when Vince Lombardi took the Washington Redskins job, and what did he do? Did he go out in the draft and get a lot of players? No, he went out there and got all those veteran players that may have had 1 year left or 2 years left and build his team. And that's sort of what we got going on in college sports right now. These coaches would rather have seasoned players from somewhere else making up their squads. But on the other hand, it's a little sad that players aren't coming in as freshmen, and you get to see them like Zakai Ziegler has been here for 4 years, and look at his popularity. by being here 4 years. Now, I'm not saying that Chaz Lanier is not popular or Gainey's not popular, but they don't compare in popularity and fan support like Zakai Ziegler does, because he's been here 4 years and he's stabilized himself. But those days I think are over for somebody staying that long.
I think it's going to be very limited, and it's not going to be the common norm that you will see. I think you'll see it'll be more the exception, but I don't think it's going away. I don't think it's going to become the odd thing out. I just don't. It's just not going to be that everybody does that route anymore. It's probably going to be maybe 20% of the kids follow that route.
Yeah.
Not that I think that's a great thing, but that's where you put yourself with this kind of transfer rule and this kind of NIL. And I think one of the things that if you're a college coach, it gives you something you didn't have before. If you're at a Power 4 program, in that you can look at a kid at a mid-major and see how they play against college competition and play against a big-time program, and kind of get a gauge that you don't get that from AAU ball, and you do not get that from high school ball.
Yeah.
That because there are just too many variables. You might be able to see how they work and how they play in certain situations, but that doesn't translate to college, and they know that.
Yeah. I don't see how they get an education going from one school or another.
We threw education out the window years ago.
Some of these guys have been to 3 schools. There's no way you can get a degree, moving from 3 schools like that in your career.
There isn't, and there should be. Their NCAA has the ability to make that happen and has chosen not to.
Okay.
So shame on them.
Okay.
But, if we were still enforcing things based on your graduation rate and they were tweaking that formula to account for transfers, you could control how many schools were accepting transfers and therefore control how many people were willing to leave if you chose to enforce those about academics, but they've chosen not to.
I know a lot of fans don't like to go back, and, they don't like to, that happened a long time ago. We don't need to talk about that today, but let's talk about it. I'm going to talk about it anyway because I was there a long time ago. And when they had 24 teams in the tournament, 24 teams, you had to win a conference or a conference championship, one of the two to put a team in there, league championship or conference championship, tournament championship. And then it went to 32, and it was 32 for a long time. And I'm looking down through here with these 8 teams that's left, and I'm including Tennessee. 5 of them wouldn't even be in the tournament. Tennessee wouldn't. If this was 1972 or 73, Tennessee last year and Tennessee this year, as good as they are, and as deserving as they would have been, would not even have been in the NCAA tournament, Marcus.
True, but also you wouldn't have 4 conferences represented from what you're saying, because the conferences weren't that big. Those same teams might represent 6 conferences.
Well, now there was more conferences back then.
Because you didn't have 16 teams in a league.
No.
You had 8 and 9, so you would have the Southwest Conference in there. You'd have had the Mountain West in there.
And that's what made up your 24. That's what made up your 24 teams. The best of every conference. Every conference was represented. You didn't have all this 68 teams with a lot of fluff in there, getting down to where you should have been to start with. That's what you got right now.
So you would have had Florida in. You wouldn't have had Tennessee and Auburn in.
No, they would not. They didn't win their league. And back then, you had the choice of sending a team to the NCAA either with the regular season conference championship or the tournament. Now, the ACC based theirs on winning the tournament. They had a conference tournament. The SEC did not. You had to win the league. So one of the two. So they were all champions that went in. They all earned the right to go in there. Now it's a different way to earn your right to go into the tournament.
Yeah, expanding the field, and I know how you feel about the expansion.
No, I'm bitter about it.
I understand.
Hell, we should have been in it 3 years in a row, and now they're just letting every time Dick and Harry come into the tournament.
And, Mike, it's just a thing.
I lose sleep over it. Get over it, Edwards. It's over, but, it's hard.
If it had, if the technology was there that they could have made money off of it, they would have expanded it earlier.
I guess. But you look back
and you could have had your shot. It's not your fault, Mike.
You look back and you think, we could have gone pretty far. We had 3 outstanding teams, and there was teams before me, and there was teams a few years after me that could have really gone far. But you get the opportunity because you had to win the league.
Yeah.
You had to win the league. So I'm just saying those players should be thankful that they have the opportunity.
Well, you know what? I'm thankful that your bitterness only extends to the NCAA tournament. Because truthfully, you could be sitting here griping about the fact that you had to graduate college, get a degree, coach, teach, work for. You could have you could have gotten an NIL deal for 7 figures, and basically just been tooling around the last 40 years.
But it was a whole different deal. Guys in my generation, playing high school sports and going on to college and getting a scholarship, that's what it was all for. It was to get the scholarship, to get the education. That is not the way it is anymore.
No. It's about the
Whether
money.
it's a good thing or a bad thing, I don't know. But in my, if you're asking me, I think the model's not good. I don't think the model's good right now. I don't think you should reward anybody with money that hasn't performed and hadn't done anything yet. And I think you're sending the wrong message to kids. With all this money, what's going to happen when they get out of school and they go, well, I'm going to tell you right now, when you're done, you're done. They pat you on the back for 4 years, and then when you're out, and you're wondering where all those people went. Where are they now? Well, you got to go make a living. You got a whole different.
They better get an education while they're in there.
That's what I'm saying. It's just and we won't know. The jury's still out on it. We won't know maybe for 5 or 10 years how all this is playing out, and by that time it may all be changed. They may come with more rules, more regulations, and do a better job. But I think right now I don't think it's a positive model.
No,
from a fan standpoint, I don't think the fan out there. I don't think they give a hoot. The fans are just interested in their team winning and playing games. I don't think they care about how much money they're giving, where they get an education or nothing. They're wanting their team to win. They're fans. Fans are fans. They'll pay any amount of money to see their team win. They won't pay a lot of money to see them lose, but they'll pay a lot of money to see them win.
Yeah.
And that's just the way it is. That's what we got right now.
And that's what the hypocrisy of that NCAA commercial they're running right now. It's been around for several seasons, several tournaments, but it's the one and it says we're all going pro in something besides sports. It's the tagline at the end, and I just look at it and I'm like, that's true for the athletes in the sports you're showing, because they're showing like gymnastics and track and rowing and soccer and volleyball, but when you're looking at the basketball and football, I'm like, you got to graduate before you go pro in something.
Yeah.
And you're not getting in most cases, you're not getting a meaningful degree. You're not going to major in nuclear engineering and be the quarterback and transfer 3 times.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. I don't expect somebody to get the violin out because we didn't make the tournament for 3 years, because I'm looking at all those mid-majors back in those days. There wasn't any mid-majors in the tournament. Those were blue bloods back there when they had 24 and 32 teams. Those mid-majors, they didn't go.
Yeah.
They didn't go. You didn't see those guys. Very few of them. Very few. I think Butler University was in the tournament a few years back in the in the 60s, but you didn't see many of them. It was mostly.
So teams didn't get as much money back then as far as like TV and all that.
There was no
stuff.
TV deals.
No TV.
There wasn't hardly any TV on.
So only like 3 stations.
No, it was just
two if you got them.
It was a whole different ball game. I got one other question before we go to break, and you guys can jump in on this. But Tennessee's big on this balls for life. You hear that all the time? He's a ball for life. Ball for life.
They're big on that?
Ball for life. This guy's a ball for life. Oh, so-and-so is a ball for life. Okay, if that's the case, are people that come in here, players that come in here 1 year, are they balls for life? I mean, they played 4 other places or 3 other places.
They're balls for life now.
If they've set foot out there and played 1 minute of one game, they're a ball for life.
As long as you don't get arrested and give your donation to the university after you graduate, sure.
Okay.
All I have to say, our basketball program has been very good about that. People not getting in trouble,
Oh, that's a great point. That's a great. We don't have to worry about people having a gun out there in their car or marijuana.
Yeah,
that is a super point.
UT police getting them on something, you know.
We seem to be running, Marcus, a quality program out there without people getting great point, Dwayne.
In the past, we've seen some of that.
Yeah, we got to go down there and get them out to play a game.
Yeah.
Not here, but everywhere, in the league. But here,
catch them down there on Cumberland doing something, in the parking lot.
Well, that's the nice thing is there's nothing left on Cumberland,
no,
so they
right.
can't get in trouble down there anymore.
All tall buildings.
And that's something else that's changed too. When I was playing, a major thing was to be taken off the floor in practice and go over and throw a towel. You throw a towel, that's a major deal.
Yeah.
That's a major deal. Look, you see him? He came off the practice floor and threw a towel. And Marvin West is calling you at the dorm and wanting to know if you're all upset and if you're going to transfer and this and that. And now it's a gun in the car out somewhere or somebody's drunk or whatever.
Yeah.
So times have changed.
Well, the most dangerous weapon in Athens, Georgia, is a radar gun.
Yeah.
I was going to give you a little update. That was Tony called me, and I just asked him, where were you at last night at the game? Well, guess where his seats were?
Where?
4 seats behind Peyton Manning. He's
Really?
right behind him. I said, well, you must know somebody.
You didn't see him leaning over and putting those rabbit ears on Peyton's head?
No.
Oh, I thought that was great.
I said, heck, you must know somebody. He wouldn't tell me exactly who it was, but I said, wow. So he's having a good time, Tony is.
Well, that's great. We're glad we made him, aren't you, Dwayne?
Yeah.
Aren't you glad this show made him, Marcus?
A couple more appearances with us, and he'll actually be down there on the road with Peyton.
He'll be on Channel 8 for the finals.
Well, he could have invited a few of his friends, to join him. And we could have done a remote right there,
But we're like those guys that's graduated from college. When you're done, you're done. They forget about you. Huh? Yeah. Life goes on and without you. Hey, it's time for a break. When we return, it's the Boyd Sports Spotlight, and we'll have some national sports headlines and talk some more about the NCAA basketball tournament. You're listening to the Goteez Sports page, and now stay tuned for the best in local sports.
For over 90 years, Anderson Lumber Company in Alcoa has proudly served and supported our local communities. Locally owned, so the money made here stays here. Whether you're renovating a kitchen, bath, new floors, doors, or windows, Anderson Lumber is so much more than a lumber store and can take care of you from design to install. We welcome you to visit Anderson Lumber in Alcoa for all your home's needs, or shop over 67,000 items online at AndersonLumberCompany.com. Anderson Lumber since 1925. Aubrey's is known for real comfort, real food, real good. But remember, Aubrey's is also really into Blount County. Aubrey's Maryville has been a strong supporter of local schools and sports programs for more than 15 years. From baseball to football, dance teams, and marching bands, Aubrey's has helped schools and youth programs generate thousands of dollars. It's easy for us to do because it's the right thing to do. So the next time you're looking to choose a place to eat, we hope you'll choose Aubrey's. Real comfort, real food, real good. See what's on the menu at aubreysrestaurants.com.
Welcome back to the Bluetick Tavern in downtown Maryville. This is Mike Edwards, and it's time for the Boyd Sports Spotlight segment. And I'm here with Marcus Fitzsimmons, longtime sports writer, and former Alcoa basketball standout Dwayne Easter. And I'm going to fill in a little bit here for Donnie Moore again on some sports headlines. And you guys feel free to jump in here whenever you want to. And this segment is brought to you by Fast Signs. There we go. All right. Hey, the basketball coaching carousel has begun with transfer portals. It's underway as of last Monday, I guess, and the basketball coaching carousel has come around. Ex-Xavier coach Sean Miller has been named the head basketball coach at Texas. Miller's teams put Texas out of this year's NCAA tournament. He's won 487 games in his career, and he has a winning percentage of 71%. So, Marcus, there's a guy that was in the tournament with Xavier, showed well, did well, and now he's joined the Southeastern Conference down there at Texas. His work's cut out for him.
If you want to go where the games are, come to the SEC and buckle up.
Yeah.
Because this conference has stockpiled good coaches in the last decade, and and this year it showed. Now there's some moments in this tournament where I wondered about it.
Yeah.
There's been some moments from Arkansas and Kentucky coaching wise on the sideline that I kind of went, huh. Don't know if I'd done that, but they've done a real good job, and that's another good addition.
Yep. Minnesota, the University of Minnesota has hired Colorado State's former Colorado State's coach Nico Medved. He'll join the program, the Golden Gophers, there at Minnesota, and Colorado State lost to Maryland in the NCAA tournament on a buzzer beater. He's a Minneapolis native. He attended Minnesota, spent a year at Minnesota as assistant coach, and Medved went 143 and 85 at Colorado State. Iowa has hired Drake coach Ben McCullum as its next basketball coach. McCullum coached Drake one season, coached him to a 31 and 4 record. Was only there 1 year, and then Drake lost to Texas Tech in the NCAA tournament, and he is also a native of Iowa City. So there you go. You got 3 coaches that's done well in the tournament, Dwayne, and
moving on up.
3 coaches that
If you show
moved on up from those places on up the ladder.
But if you show, and especially in the case of the last one, where you can go right in and you know how to use the portal and bring in players for your system and win, that's what you don't have to go and make 3 tournaments and people's like, oh well, this Bruce Pearl guy at Milwaukee, Wisconsin he's making a little bit of noise there the last couple of years. You come in now and you prove you can win, you can just send that resume out.
Yeah, and we've seen it from years past where coaches that have done well in the NCAA tournament, especially at the mid major level or Cinderella level, nail one of these major college jobs based on how they did in the tournament. Sometimes it works out. Sometimes it doesn't work out as they move up.
So how do they do that? They just kind of send out scouts. I mean, like UT, do you send out a scout kind of like you had a assistant coach in high school go out and scout a team that you're getting ready to play? Is that what they do now? Do they?
I don't know. But
how do you find these guys?
But I'm telling you, I'd be surprised if these guys didn't know they were going to make the move while they were still in the tournament.
Yeah.
I'm wondering if they'd already been contacted. They were just keeping it quiet.
The thing is, this is so much earlier than what we used to see, because normally what happens is the Final Four, any coach who feels they're on the hot seat or looking to move up, or if you're an athletic director who knows you're going to be making a change, you show up at the Final Four, and it is a mass meet and greet. And then you go back and look at it, make some phone calls and start looking and get for references, and that's when you start seeing the carousel turn.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But that's not the way. I don't know how they're doing it now.
Yeah. Hey, Baltimore Ravens reached a 3-year contract extension with Coach John Harbaugh, under contract until 2028 season now. He's the team's all-time winningest coach, 185 and 115 record over 17 years. Got 1 Super Bowl title and 12 playoff berths, and I think there's only a couple of guys in the, or maybe one guy in the league. The coach there at Pittsburgh has got, I think he's been there 18 years, and there's only one other coach with a better resume as far as playoffs and so forth. I think that's Andy Reid out there at Kansas City. I may correct me if I'm wrong, but I
think you're right.
I think I'm fairly close on that, but I didn't see what amount they were paying him. They didn't have that posted. Hey, Major League Baseball is underway, guys.
Opening day, there was excitement all around.
Yeah, there always is. Everybody's in first place that first week, aren't they, Dwayne?
Yeah. Everybody's looking forward to the Atlanta Braves to start up.
I always tell this story, but when Vin Scully was announcing for the Dodgers, he used to tell this story that they went into New York for their first game one year to play the Mets, and I guess it was at the old Polo Grounds, when Casey was maybe the second year they were there or whatever.
Yeah.
And said the first batter up for the Dodgers, the first pitch, he hits it out. He hits a home run. And Scully looks down there on about the first or second row in the box seats, and somebody's got a sign up. A Met fan said, "We'll get him next year." I love that story. First ball, first pitch, bang,
Bang.
right out of the ballpark. Yeah.
Amazing Mets.
But it's good to have baseball back, and we'll see how the season goes. It's always interesting to see who's picked up there at the top to start, and how it looks about halfway through, or
yeah.
You know what I'm interested to see is with the Smokies back in Knoxville. I'm looking to see if Knoxville embraces them, because they didn't just leave Knoxville because Sevierville gave them such a better deal. They did give them a great deal, but the attendance had dropped off and they weren't going to build. I'm looking to see if Knoxville will embrace this team again, or if they're going to depend on fans coming in from the surrounding region to keep that stadium full.
I think they will, because there's a lot of stuff around that stadium, and like you can go eat and do all this stuff around the stadium. I think making an experience instead of just going to the dull ballpark, like Bill Myers Stadium was.
I say that because you can go to a Nashville Sounds game, and like half the people are there watching the other game, and the other half are having happy hour outside.
That's right.
And they don't. You might have to tell them to duck for a ball because they don't even know there's a baseball game going on. I'm just curious to see what develops, and I'm glad the Smokies are here, and like I said, I'm curious to see what happens, because you cut 30 minutes off that drive of what it was if you were coming from Maryville to go to the game.
Yeah, but then you got that's what you're cutting off, but you're adding on trying to find someplace to park down there.
Yeah. Could they eventually play UT baseball, like men's baseball, in that stadium, or is that?
That's always been a question that I think has been asked, and nobody's really ever given a good answer as to why they did not build a joint use facility.
Yeah, because if you got
Vitello didn't want it.
So
he wanted his own field.
So how many people will at that new stadium seat?
What is it? Is it 8? 6
No.
or 8, something like that.
I don't know.
Well, that's not a whole lot bigger than UT's.
I mean, it's not. It's not much bigger than the old Smokies Park.
I think that UT will play some games down there.
Yeah.
But I don't think they were interested in playing at that stadium. I don't think they wanted. I think they wanted their own place on campus.
I think the conflict is postseason. When you get in the postseason and you might have 3 consecutive weekends that you need to be at home, that's not going to balance with the minor league team.
And who's going to get the money? It probably came into.
Yeah. Hey, I got some on this day in sports. 1940 American boxer Joe Louis KOs Johnny Paycheck. Johnny Paycheck in 2 rounds, and he retains the heavyweight boxing title. And I believe Joe Louis, I don't know whether he served in the military or not. Maybe you guys know, but he's buried in Arlington Cemetery.
Oh, is he really?
Yeah, Joe Louis.
He was in the military.
Was he? Okay. All right. 1941, the 3rd NCAA basketball championship. Wisconsin, the Badgers, beat Washington State 39-34. 1966, Muhammad Ali beats George Chuvalo in 15 rounds for the heavyweight boxing title. 1973, Boston Celtics, Dave Cowens. Boy, there's a guy that could hustle.
Yeah.
Dave Cowens wins the NBA MVP. Left-handed guy, wasn't he?
He became a coach, too, didn't he?
Yeah, I think so, later on. 1976, the 38th NCAA basketball championship. Indiana beat Michigan 86-68. That was an all Big Ten deal. I think that was that the year Indiana? I think they went 31-0 that year. I don't think they lost a game that year. 1981. This is going back. The AIAW Women's Basketball Championship. Louisiana Tech beat Tennessee 79-59.
Wow.
Those were some really good Louisiana Tech teams back then.
Yeah, they dominated.
And Tennessee played them multiple times. They were like a bugaboo for Pat Summitt until the NCAA tournament. It was, hey, let's include the women.
Yeah.
What a novel idea.
So what's happened to Louisiana Tech now? They
don't hear much about them.
Don't hear much about it anymore.
It changed the game.
Yeah. 1982, 44th NCAA men's basketball tournament. North Carolina beat Georgetown 63-62. James Worthy was the MVP. Huh. In 1984, in the middle of the night, the Baltimore Colts headed to Indianapolis
Oh,
in the
did
middle of
it?
the night. Packed them up,
Backed them
took
up.
them to Indianapolis. 1987, the 6th NCAA Women's Basketball Championship. Tennessee beat Louisiana 67 to 44. 1994, Jimmy Johnson of the Dallas Cowboys quits.
Quits. Huh?
Yeah, I'd say that probably had something to do with the owner. Don't you guess?
Nah.
I mean, I'm just reading through the lines.
Where's
right
Ray
here.
Trail when you need him?
Yeah, he'd know, wouldn't he? Ray would have known. 1996, the Cleveland Browns, they got a new name for their relocated team there in Cleveland, the Baltimore Ravens. Baltimore Ravens. The Cleveland Browns became Baltimore Ravens. 1998, the 17th NCAA Women's Basketball Championship, Tennessee 93. Louisiana Tech was still around,
Nice.
75 in that one, and that was a three-peat for the Lady Vols, 39-0 that year, 39-0. So, yeah, I've got some birthdays somewhere here. Birthdays. Here we go. Hall of Fame pitcher Cy Young.
Wow.
Most major league wins history, 511.
Wow.
Still stands.
That's crazy.
Yeah. Nobody's going to break that, are they?
No.
No, I don't think so. Racehorse Man of War won the Triple Crown in 1920, was born in 1917. American auto racer Bill Vukovich II. His father was Bill Vukovich, a two-time winner of the Indianapolis 500, and Billy Vukovich II was Rookie of the Year in 1968 at Indianapolis, and he was runner-up in the 1973 Indianapolis 500. He was born in 1944. Major League pitcher Denny McLain.
Denny
of
McLain,
the Detroit Tigers.
Yeah.
Cy Young Award winner.
I remember
Played in the
him.
major leagues from 1963 to 72, and
Yep.
and he was born in 1944. Basketball player Walt Frazier.
Walt Frazier,
New
yeah.
York Knicks. Great. Having a birthday.
I used to like watch them
Yeah.
play.
He was born in 1945. Of course, he's in the Basketball Hall of Fame. College and Pro Football Hall of Famer Earl Campbell.
Earl Campbell.
Earl Campbell, Heisman Trophy winner, 1977. Houston Oilers. He was born in 1955. An American baseball executive, Billy Bean. Oakland Athletics made the movie Moneyball.
Moneyball.
Moneyball after him. Yeah. He'd go out and get his players by statistics, not by scouts. And he was pretty successful with doing all of that. Deaths. 1988, Ted Kluszewski. You remember Ted Kluszewski? Played for the Cincinnati Reds, first baseman. He was an all-star from 1953 to 56. National League home run and RBI leader in 54. He died at the age of 63. This guy, you remember? You probably don't know who Ted Kluszewski is.
I know the name.
He had the big. He cut his uniform off up at the top of the sleeves. His biceps were huge. His muscles were absolutely. I don't think he ever lifted a weight.
Really?
Yeah, he was a strong-looking guy. 2018 death, Rusty Staub. Remember Rusty Staub
yeah.
played for the Houston Colt 45s, the Houston Astros, Montreal Expos, the Mets,
yeah.
Tigers. He traveled around.
I remember
Played
that.
in a lot of
Played
different
with the
places.
Expos.
He was a six-time Major League Baseball All-Star, and he was a broadcaster for the Mets from 1986 to 1995, and he was 73 years old.
I've got one other death that I hate to hear. I don't know if y'all remember Todd Upton that played at Alcoa, then went on to UT. He passed away this past week, so just think of his family. Todd was a good guy.
Marcus, we're getting ready to taking a look at these final 8 teams in the tournament. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4 SEC teams left, and they're I'm right back to the same old deal. The best of the best, even though this is a up-to-date modern tournament, the more the things change, the more they stay the same. We've still got the best teams in the SEC tournament playing in for the championship.
We have the 4 that everybody thought would be there.
I think so.
Yeah.
And the question now is how many of them will make the Final Four, who will win that one more game to get to the Final Four, and whether, Paramount's going to cry if it's all 4 SEC teams.
Yeah.
Because I think the national interest will fade if that were to be the case. I don't think that will happen. And it could be, you said this to me earlier, it could go the other way. What if they all 4 lose and you have no SEC teams in the Final Four?
And then they'll look up here. I told you so. I told you it wasn't that tough a league.
Yeah, they jump on that pretty fast.
I think it's closer to all 4 of them being in there than not having any of them in there.
Do you not think it's more fun watching SEC play than some of these other conferences? I mean, yeah, I think SEC play is just more exciting to me.
Spoken like a true Southerner. That's what I like about you. That's what I like about you, Dwayne. You're a true Southerner. Nobody plays football like they play down here, and nobody plays basketball and nobody plays baseball down here like we play.
Well, in the last few years, SEC has come up.
Yeah,
I
I
have to
agree
say
with
that.
You saw
in the past,
you saw some exciting play last night, especially with Ole Miss and Michigan State, and with Michigan and Auburn. And they got both of those games. There were points where the action got so back and forth, carried away with trying to make that big play that there were lots of turnovers. But the one thing that kind of popped out, and I've seen this several times this tournament, but especially last night, is just the size in the SEC. There's a lot of collisions in basketball, but the number of times we saw guards bouncing off another guard, the guard hitting the floor, probably 7 times out of 10 was not the SEC guard. You saw a lot of collisions where you had a guy from another conference laying on the floor, and the SEC guy's like, "That's how you all hit. We tackle in the SEC."
Yeah. I think the big difference that I've seen between the SEC and some of the other leagues is the athleticism of the SEC. The athletes in the SEC, they swing stronger. You looked at that Auburn game last night, and it looked like an SEC football team, against a Big Ten football team. The SEC team was, outside shooting, get the ball to the bucket, athleticism was showing, and the Big Ten team, Michigan, looked like 3 yards in a cloud of dust. You know what I'm saying? Just take it into the 2 big guys inside, and we hope to score.
Yeah.
But
SEC's got really good coaching too.
And that's not always been the case. But that's a very good point. They have upped their game as far as coaching goes. And Marcus, I think that's been a little bit surprising to me, because a lot back in the day, I don't know if you'd have had the interest in the SEC with all these outstanding name coaches nationally wanting to get into a league that's predominantly all they want to talk about is football.
Yeah.
Well, the fans may talk about football, but one of the products of the SEC athletic facility race, the build-out that went on for the better part of 20 years, where facilities, is that has reached a point where the facilities are so much better that you've created the interest, because is there any difference between some of these college arenas and an NBA facility? I mean, they're getting renovated and updated much more often than an NBA facility in some of those Civic Coliseum type arenas.
I think the SEC's leadership has done an outstanding job in really encouraging all of their sports in this league to be competitive and to go for championships.
Yeah.
Because that hasn't always been the case. Because when I was down here in the early 70s, the papers down here in basketball season, here we were trying to fight for an SEC championship, and all they wanted to talk about was the Vanderbilt football game back in 1925. Tennessee and Vanderbilt back in 25.
Yeah.
Those 2 teams playing, and no two sports writers I don't think ever came to a basketball game. It was football
Yeah.
football with them. The mentality was all football. And now I think it's refreshing that you can go from football and all that excitement in the fall. It's still there. And then go to the excitement of basketball, you know, with all the teams and the competitiveness in SEC basketball and the fans getting into it. And then you go on, like we've talked about, to baseball and that enthusiasm. And Dwayne, that just hadn't always been here.
No.
I mean, from top to bottom in the SEC. It has with a few schools. Kentucky in basketball, I think Tennessee, Vanderbilt at one time in basketball, you know, but not like it is now.
Not like it is now. There's so many good teams now, you know. It's fun to watch.
Yeah.
It's just fun to watch.
I wonder who can afford to be a three-sport Tennessee fan.
I don't know.
Who can get season tickets for all three sports?
Apparently Tony.
Yeah, Tony.
I don't. But yeah, it's expensive. I kind of checked online for the tickets because my cousin lives up in Indiana. I thought I might just stay with him and go. So I started checking the tickets. It's like $300 or $400, and they weren't really that great of tickets, really. But they went fast, even at that. I mean,
Well, you can't see in there. I mean, if you got a ticket, you can't see. I mean, you can't hardly see the goals in that great big place. I mean, you know, they actually played a high school state tournament in that arena. Back, Damon Bailey was in high school. He's playing for Bedford North or somebody in southern part of Indiana, and they were in the state tournament. And he was like a high school legend. He had committed to play at IU for Bob Knight in junior high school.
oh really?
And he had gone off the. Well, his team was in the state championship, so they set it up just like they set it up last night. And it has the all-time record in Indiana for the state tournament, 43,000.
Really?
43,000 for the state Indiana basketball tournament. It's a great day in Indianapolis going on up there right now because the Indiana State High School championship finals are in Cambridge Fieldhouse, which is downtown. They're going on right now. They got their 4 classes. They bring them all in there, play state champ, where the Pacers play.
Yeah.
And then 3 blocks down is where you're playing the NCAA tournament. What kind of day is that?
Yeah, exactly.
You know, for basketball in a great basketball state. So, hey, it's time for a break, and when we return, we'll be back to close out today's show. You're listening to the Goteez Sports Page, and now stay tuned for the best in local sports.
The Roger L. Newman Company began in 1984 with a vision of providing Blount County with excellent heating and cooling service. Mr. Newman also wanted a real business. No gimmicks and no high-pressure sales. They just fix it or replace it. They want to stay within your budget and make you comfortable. Their motto still stands true today. Call us first, we'll be there. Call Roger L. Newman Company at 982-5446 or visit online at rogerlnewman.com. Cooler temperatures are approaching. Upgrade your furnace now for as little as $50 a month. For over 50 years and 3 generations, the people of Blount County have trusted Stevenson Tire with their vehicles and their families. Our mission has always been simple: to provide quality products at reasonable prices with exceptional customer service. Featuring tire products from Michelin, B.F. Goodrich, Uniroyal, Bridgestone, Firestone, and Yokohama, Stevenson Tire also offers alignment and brake services at affordable prices. Stevenson Tire Company, 2411 East Broadway Avenue in Maryville. Call 983-1621 or online at stevensontire.net.
Welcome back to the Bluetick Tavern in downtown Maryville. This is Mike Edwards, the Greenfield Gunner, and I'm here with longtime sports writer Marcus Fitzsimmons and former Alcoa basketball standout Dwayne Easter. Marcus, we failed, back when you're talking about the high school deal. I know it seems like a long time ago, but Alcoa, tough loss for them in the state championship game. I think that was last Saturday night.
Yeah,
It was
overtime.
last Saturday, yeah.
We want to tell them.
And it was overtime too, I believe.
Yeah, and Dwayne, that was. You guys comment on that a little bit. Heartbreaker for them. I think they were going. Was this the 3rd straight? Wasn't it?
It had been the 3rd straight.
And heartbreaking for them. But hats off to them. They had a great year.
I heard they didn't shoot as well.
It was a tough. I mean, they had a good lead early in that game, and it kind of melted away in the 3rd quarter, and Alcoa had to rally just to force overtime in the final minute. I mean, had to make some fantastic plays defensively and get a couple big buckets to force overtime. And they just overtime just didn't go their way.
Yeah.
I mean, it was still a very close game, even in overtime. But
But I think Alcoa is still a young team. I think they, of course, lose Graff. I don't know about Kurt kid or not, but they're still going to have a good team next year.
well, I'll say this: nobody expected Alcoa to be back in the championship game.
I didn't really, to be honest with you.
You don't graduate a player like that and expect the next year, you're supposed to drop off. You're not supposed to have everybody step up and pick up a role and power that team back in there.
Yeah.
And I think there were a lot of people who were surprised Alcoa even made the state tournament, but this team did the unexpected.
Yeah.
And played really well together.
Well, they kind of know what it takes to get there now. I think that helps a lot, too, when you're going into something. You've been there before. A lot of those guys have been there before, so I think that helps a lot, too.
Yeah. Alcoa is sort of like the Tennessee of high school. You know, they have the great football teams.
Yeah.
They go right into the basketball season. They're strong in girls and boys basketball. Then you head right into the spring. They're strong in track and field. They're strong in softball. They're strong in baseball, and you can throw in golf and soccer in there every once in a while. And Marcus, that's a great all-around sports program, high school there at Alcoa.
It's a great one, and maybe one day they'll get a track.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, they have to have
Yeah.
a state champion. You know, they've got 3 state championships in the last 5 years between the boys and the girls, and they don't even have their own track.
Yeah, that's
Maybe
unbelievable.
Put around the duck pond or something. They've been trying to figure out where to put one, but they've never have decided where to put one. I mean, we had a lot of good athletes when I was in high school. We didn't go out for track because it's kind of like, didn't have a track. So it's like, and they had like a pit where you, with the pole vault.
Yeah.
It was like sawdust.
Yeah, they use sawdust, didn't they?
It's like that looked dangerous to me.
Yeah. Well, where do they practice track? I mean, where do they go?
They
William
do
Blunt,
a lot.
maybe?
They do a lot of road work, and then they kind of beg, borrow, and arm twist a little bit. They work out at Maryville. They've worked out before the lacrosse field went in. They would work some at Maryville Junior High, Heritage, William Blunt, Eagleton. I mean, whoever felt like they could work with.
Maybe a big incentive just not to have a track. 'Cause, you get a track and you don't do as well. You go, well, we were pretty good till we got that track. We just don't seem to be as good.
They just can't figure out where to put it. I don't know. It's just
Well, they'll figure it
Can
out.
we put one in the duck pond? Like make an
How about
oval.
around the duck pond?
Make an oval in the duck pond. So if you get off if you get out of your lane, you're going in the drink.
yeah.
Yeah.
Just make it an island out there with a big pond in the middle of it.
Yeah,
we can have something real creative out there.
that's been kind of thrown around, I don't know. Maybe over around Kickback Jacks or something. They can put a track in over there to Food City.
Hey, let's look at these matchups in the NCAA. We got a little bit of time left here. Auburn and Michigan State. Dwayne, you got Tom Izzo. He's, I don't know, sentimental favorite. He's getting on up there in years, and he wants to go back to the Final Four. And you're thinking Michigan State and Magic Johnson and those days. And then you got Auburn and Bruce Pearl up there, and he coached here, and he's got it going down there at Auburn. Got a great team there. Who do you like in that?
I'm picking Auburn. Yeah, I just think they're.
I'm going to go with Michigan State.
You're going with you like the upset, don't you? You
I don't
like green and white.
I don't like the way Auburn has played in this situation in the last month.
Yeah. Well, for about half to 3/4 last night, they were a little bit on the verge, but boy, they caught fire and they went to town. I got Auburn right there, and we'll see. Florida, Texas Tech. Texas Tech could have been an all-SEC affair right there with Florida and Arkansas.
Yeah.
But, Dwayne, that didn't materialize, so we got Texas Tech that's moved in there. Have they got any answers for Florida today? Florida's good inside, outside.
Florida's playing really well. They've got the big guys that they can go to, and they're playing consistent.
Yeah.
Nah, it's Florida.
In
Yeah.
picking this tournament,
Florida.
yeah, Florida.
Florida.
In picking this tournament, this is the bracket that I got killed in right here because I was really thinking St. John's.
Yeah,
You know,
St. John's.
I
yeah.
was thinking St. John's, maybe in Florida playing today, and boy, I got busted out.
Yeah.
Arkansas busted.
Arkansas.
They busted me up. I'm doing pretty good in all the other ones, but not that one.
Yeah.
Let's move up to Duke and Alabama. Duke and Alabama.
Wow, I'm taking Alabama.
Yeah,
I think
you're just like a well-said
Sears, you
Southern
know.
guy.
Yeah.
All South. all South. What do you think?
I think Alabama.
I'm gonna go with Duke today.
Wow.
I'm going to go with Duke.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with Duke. I like the Blue Devils.
I
in
got
this
Duke
matchup.
too, but I'm a little bit worried. These are two teams. This game might be 115 to 112. I don't know. Both of them put up a lot of points. They go
Yeah.
up and down the court. You got a lot of athleticism on Alabama. I don't know whether Duke can handle that or not, but Duke's got the #1 player in the country in flag, and so I'm going to stay with Duke primarily because that's who I picked at the very beginning. I'm not feeling quite as good about it right now, but I'm going to stay with them. Houston and Tennessee.
Oh, Tennessee, definitely.
Oh, there you go. You got 4 SEC teams. In the, Oh, Colonel Sanders here's got 4 SEC teams in the finals. What do you got?
I guess I'm
Marcus.
gonna go with. No, I can't go with. The Vols lose.
You think they're going to get beat?
Oh, my gosh.
Vols lose.
Hey, I've seen everything, and Tennessee's played. Hey, nobody's come close to Tennessee in this tournament yet, and I don't think Houston, man for man, is as good as Tennessee.
I don't think they are either.
I just I watched Tennessee play last night in their game in Kentucky, and watched that. It
Houston.
looked like you dropped off a level.
Yeah.
You know, in that game, I'm taking the Vols to make it to the
I
Final
am
Four,
too.
guys.
Yeah.
All right. Marcus, you got that
that
whistle.
thing working today?
Yeah. Is it going to work? Hold on there. Hey, listen. Thanks, guys. It's been fun, and we hope we pull the Vols through there
That's
tomorrow.
right.
Marcus, get us out of here. Oh my! Woo! Donnie Moore, where are you?
Where's that whistle?
Hey,
I got a broken whistle.
Hey, that'll do it for today's edition of the Goteez Sports Page. Thanks to Aaron Ishmael back at Loud Media, our host of Bluetick Tavern, and all our sponsors. For Donnie Moore and Marcus Fitzsimmons and Dwayne Easter, until next Saturday, this is Mike Edwards, the Greenfield Gunner, wishing everyone good sports.
And that's the final whistle. Join us again next Saturday for the Goteez Sports Page. The best in local sports since 1978.